already know that food brings people together, and that's what drives the culinary creations of Chef Bill Alexander, who's been bringing dishes inspired by his Indigenous culture to kitchens all over the world. He joins us this morning to bring his signature style to our kitchen. Welcome, Chef Bill.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you here, all the way from Calgary this morning.
Yes. Yeah.
What are we going to be making?
So this is one of our dishes on our Indigenous-inspired menu at the Grego Resort and Casino. It is our maple smoked salmon. Different to normal smoke, it's actually our maple syrup that we smoke, not the salmon. We top it off with a little bit of our bison smoked pemmican, which is an Indigenous delicacy dish. Basically ground up bison, Saskatoon berries, and a little bit of the normal bison fat with it to make a dried preserve.
Can I smell that?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's good. I want to try. Can I try a little bit?
Oh, absolutely.
And I can eat it just like this?
Yeah, you can eat it like that. You can eat it on spreads. It acts as a modern-day chew and tons of flavor.
It's got a really sort of smoky...
It does.
Oh, it's really nice.
It'll stay with you as well throughout.
Oh, so good.
So what we're going to do next is we're going to actually glaze with the smoked maple syrup.
How do you smoke maple syrup?
So you can do it two different ways with it. You can, if you wanted a quick version of it with it, you could add a small combination of liquid smoke, or you can do the long drawn-out process where you actually put the maple syrup inside a smoking cabinet and just let it sit for hours and take that.
So good. Chef, you have been in kitchens all over the world. You've been in Japan, Italy, New Zealand. What brought you back to Canada?
Yeah, so it was interesting. You know, traveling all around the world, I realized that food was pretty much a universal language in itself. In every culture, it brought everything back. It brings people together, and you're allowed to share things, memories, culture over food. The funny thing is it was actually traveling all the way around the world that made me realize I had to come back home and share what I learned. So coming back home to Canada, I'd worked everywhere, but not Western Canada. So 5 years ago, I moved out there with it, and now 22 years later as an executive chef, I'm cooking recipes that I learned as a kid.
And I think what's curious to people is what is the signature? What are some of the hallmarks of Indigenous cooking and cuisine?
Yeah, I think really we're known around the world right now for bannock breads and Indian tacos and some of those staples. But I think more and above that with it, it's really our relationship with the land and how everything comes from the land is super seasonal and our ability to preserve food.
How do you then, you know, if I'm at home cooking and I want to do some Indigenous-inspired dishes, how do I do that? I don't have access to ground buffalo, for example.
Right, so the hard part is the accessibility with it, but you are finding lots of modern-day butchers now that you can get wild game in or farmed seasonally wild game with it to do it. But I think more so it's just about doing research to find out what's seasonal, what would be available if you didn't have grocery stores. Well,
and cooking seasonal and farm to table is all the rage around the world, which is what you're doing. So we've done the salmon.
Yes.
What do we have with it?
So now we did, on our topic of seasonal veg, we've gone to root veg with it. So we've got our carrots, our purple potatoes, purple carrots.
Good.
You'll notice they're lightly caramelized. So we did them with our pemmican butter, which is our pemmican there. We made that. That is, you can absolutely, absolutely.
I like to taste everything first. Oh, good. So it's just, it's got that same nice smoky flavor to it.
Absolutely. This is the only butter I've ever seen people eat actually just by itself.
I would. I might have some more, actually. Really, really good.
So these root veg were cooked in our pemmican butter, and then they were actually glazed in our Tsuut'ina honey. So this is actually honey we make right on our Tsuut'ina Nation land from our own apiaries. And then we glaze it in that to get that nice caramel. And then...
And this is one of my favorites. You didn't even know that. This is Saskatoon berries, correct?
This is our Saskatoon Berry Jam.
So people watching around the rest of the country who may not have had a chance to try this delicacy that is Saskatoon Jam, can you describe the flavor of a Saskatoon berry? Yeah,
so the Saskatoon berry is rather tart in comparison to normal. So what I like about this jam with it is that it's not overly sweet. It actually adds that little fine. It's fantastic on ice cream, but basically, what it does is it adds a nice little natural acidity to a dish, but it's disguised in what normally would be sweet.
What I'm learning about your dishes here today is similar to other cultures that, you know, like curries, for example, which have lots of layers to the flavor. There's salty, there's sweet mixed in with it, there's a bit of smoke. Indigenous has its own sophisticated flavor and taste to it that's very much part of Canada. We just haven't tried it yet.
Absolutely. That's part of our challenge with it is getting people to find out where they can experience it, and Grego Resort and Casino is just one of those options.
Okay, I'm going to experience it for everybody in Canada right now. Chef, I want to thank you for coming in today. The recipe for Chef Bill's delicious smoked maple salmon is on our website, yourmorning.ca. I want to try some of this with the Saskatoon. We'll be right back.